Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Friday, June the 20th, 2025, and today's topic I'm going to call rendering clouds and mountains. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day and I use a timer to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll start a 10-minute timer. So today I'm just going to go over I'll post a link to yesterday's video. I'll go over what I'm doing basically, and it's going to take more work. However, I wanted to share kind of the process, and this is just one of many approaches. And I'll put up a before picture, which is basically from yesterday's video, if you want to follow along. And then I spent an hour after that video to get this far, and I took my time. That's the thing. So this is basically detailing, starting to detail. However, I've talked about like the different stages. So in yesterday's video, I basically sketched it out and started to put in like the light and dark like patterns so you can kind of see. Now I've been working on this illustration for the past week. There's more work to be done. There's more detailing, but I like to keep everything going at the same level so I can see how much detail it really needs. Again, this is just an approach because part of it is like the tools that I'm using, so I'll just go over that. I went over, in every video, I go over like the different tools I use. But in the like different parts of this illustration, I also experimented. In yesterday's video, I basically used these Sharpie markers that were light and then another Sharpie marker like multicolor, but then these are a little bit darker. And that's how I got like the basic sketch. And then for like detailing, I started to go in. I just now started to go in with like these Papermate color pens. Then like the most recent one are these like ultra fine point. This brand is, here's like the brand. I didn't pick it because of the brand. I think it was on sale, but idea is that it's really fine point like color pen. I am using color. If you're still sort of getting used to rendering like something that looks detailed, you might want to just do like black and white. And so I still like to do that and then play around with like different line widths and stuff, like different pens. So part of like the color choices has to do with the rest of the picture. So for example, this one kind of has like an orangish color, so it kind of went with this. But because it's like really fine point, I can be more subtle with it. I just want to talk about like the different principles more so than the technique. The main technique is cross-hatching using different line widths. That's like the main technique. This one was running out like of the chisel point. It has like 2 tips. I'm just using like the smaller one. And that's how I got this one. So that's how I got that look. So just an example. I just cross-hatched. Again, just to like gradually get something going, like to have something to look at. Part of it is to make it, so one, build it up gradually and keep things simple, use less colors and use less sort of like techniques to like get an idea and also to blend it in with the rest of the illustration. So this is one way of getting like the outline of the clouds, because this is basically the sky color. And yeah, I just went with something pretty basic like blue. I just had this blue color. So just to begin with, before I really think about making it more complex. So that's one way to get like the edges. So that's like the edge, which is basically the outline of the shape. So like the shape of the cloud. So one way to get an edge is like this. So that's like a certain edge. And from yesterday's video, when I first started, you're only going to get like, again, you're like building it up. So then that's like an edge, and that's like a soft edge. This had already been sketched in. This was from this was from several days ago. So it had been sketched in with like black pen. So I'm just going to work with it because you'd have to paint over that to get rid of that, which you can. I also have like paint markers, but I kind of don't want this area to kind of have that look. like where I painted over it like this right here. So I have some acrylic paint markers and you could do that, but I'm just using that as kind of like the accent, although here I used it as like the main look. So that has a lot to do with it, like the material that you use has to do with like the style and the look of it. So this already had like that outline. So that's an edge. Like that's a very sharp edge right there. And then because you're using color, that black ink also makes it like the most contrast. And I'll just work with that. So it has like a multi-medium look to it because of the black ink and then like the color, like markers and stuff. I just sketched something in from imagination. However, I looked up landscape pictures to get an idea, but like this river thing right here, like that was just accidental because I'm kind of making it look like this magic that's surrounding like this sword right here, or just like an effect. So this is kind of a collage kind of illustration. So then it kind of looked like a river. I just looked up reference of like mountains with some like a river and stuff, but like it started with just like a doodle or a sketch from imagination. When you go in with like a finer point, such as like this felt tip pen, you kind of have to just experiment with it. And like if you see something, you can kind of go with it. So for example, like that river, like I'm saying like this is the river, and I could always go back in and like paint on top of that. But if I don't have to, like I won't, or if I don't feel like it. So just an example, again, building up gradually. So I'm just going to go like this. So I'm keeping in mind several different things here. One, I'm keeping in mind if I use a smaller pen, it's going to look more detailed. The technique is also like crosshatch, and even like the direction of it is a certain, it's not that important, but like you can keep it kind of consistent. It's just something to keep in mind that it does affect it. So here's another kind of example where you can leave some areas because of the way mountains are, like they have different facets or like forms. But if you keep the shapes kind of small like this, it'll look more detailed. You're basically creating like smaller forms, like within like the bigger form. So that's something to keep in mind. These are like tips really. So like I may not use this right here, for example. And another example is, even though I'm using the exact same pen, like right here, so I did that to sort of differentiate between like the river. So I'm just defining the shapes, in other words. Now you could go in and just outline stuff. I could even outline it with the same color. So let's just do that. So let's say that I outline right here. Right here. So that's just using like the same color, but you'll see that it creates a certain level of contrast. So for something that's like way back here, like if I outline that in black pen, it's going to stand out. The same thing here, like what if you don't outline it and just go over it again? Kind of like this. That's why it's called detail, and that's why you kind of look at reference to, the reference isn't going to look like this, even the color is not the same. However, it's like the principles of it are the same. So just for example, and that's why I say like build it up gradually, not only because it's like details and so it takes time to sort of put down like every pen stroke, but also you want to build up like the values and stuff sort of gradually. And I like to kind of work on it for a certain amount of time and then just leave it so that I don't overwork it, meaning do more than I need to do or like mess something up that already look good. So like this, for example, I like this little area. Like it looks kind of cool. Like it looks like a river cutting through the rocks here. And what I mean by overwork is if it already looks pretty good, then I'll just leave it. And I just did like just enough It's kind of like when you're cooking something, like you don't want to overcook it. So that's like one way to approach that. The other is if you have like a really thin pen like this, you may not use this everywhere. You might just want to use it, like I'm just using it like right here. But because I'm using, so this is more like coloring and also like pen and ink, more so than like painting per se. And so with that in mind, what happens is that like every little like pen stroke counts. I sometimes think about it like every pen stroke that you put down, it costs something. Like it costs something. You're using up the space, like the white space. So these clouds, they kind of formed spontaneously. The idea was that, okay, this was the sky, and then I tend to do it that way. Or you could outline it. Like if you outline the clouds, they look more like this, kind of cartoony, I guess. Or you could do it like this and they look a little bit more fluffy. So I kind of outlined it right here, for example. And again, you could go in and make that look more defined, but you might not want to do that. But it's kind of up to you, like how much of the color you want to use. I just wanted to add a little bit of, like right here, like kind of a unifying color, but it might just be like an accent. Let's say you want to like add more detail here. Again, I would just be gradual about it. Let's say you want to unify like this shape right here. There's different ways to go about it. So for example, it's the same color, so it's purple. However, it looks different if I go like this. So notice that now you've got this shape right here, and I shifted the value. I made it darker, and I used the same hue or the same like color, which is purple. And that's what I mean by like building it up gradually. Just if you see something, add it, and then just see like what the result is. See like what the effect is, because you're really just wanting to enhance the sketch and like the drawing and everything. You're just wanting to enhance it, and also even like the value pattern. Like this is dark to light, basically. The light's coming like from over here. And obviously you just kind of have to experiment. Now I can go over like those pen lines that I use, and that has like another look to it. To begin with, if you're doing a scene kind of like this, you might want to practice with this, like black and white. Also, if you want to introduce color, like start to get used to using color, you might want to do like a landscape, because then you don't have to worry so much about, because there's a lot you can learn from doing a landscape, and then you don't have to worry about like drawing a person or something like that. The next level of kind of challenge could be making like this unified like illustration. Like how can you take all these different subject matter and make an interesting picture like all together? And it's pretty fun. You might want to do something like this. But yeah, I want to thank you for joining me today, and if you enjoy these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it, and until next time, keep on sketching.